Hello, everyone, and welcome to my digital story. My name is Ricardo Guevara, and I'll be going over organizational structure and design. So, a quick question before we actually get started is I want you to see how your workplace is structured. Not physically, of course, with bricks in the wood that are holding up the building, but as far as how it's run, how the environment is, and how everything gets done day to day there. So to start figuring out what kind of structure the organization has, we have to look at organizing. And that is the function of management that determines what needs to be done, how it will be done, and who is to do it. So this all comes together and starts forming the structure and the design. Organizational design is how all this organizing gets accomplished. This is when managers can develop or change an organization structure. Within these organizational designs, there is a few principles that are used and still used to this day, and they have been around for 95 years by management writers Henry Fayol and Max Weber. So these principles come down to 6 elements of structure and design. The first one being specialization, second, departmentalization, third, authority and responsibility, fourth, span of control, fifth, centralization and decentralization, and the sixth is formalization. Our first one with specialization is essentially dividing work activities into separate job tasks, or also known as division of labor. Individual employees specialize in doing part of an activity rather than the entire activity, and this is in order to increase work output. An example of this could be the Wilson Sporting Goods factory. The workers make every football used in the National Football League and most of those used in college and high school football games. To meet these daily outputs, the workers specialize in job tasks such as molding, stitching, sewing, lacing, and so forth. So not one single person is responsible for making that one football, so they can increase their output throughout. The second with departmentalization is how jobs are grouped together. So now there's 5 that go into this. The first one being functional is just a group of employees that are based on work performance. This could be engineering, accounting, information systems, and human resources. The second one with product is where they group the employees based on product areas in the corporation. It could be examples of women footwear, men's footwear, apparel, and accessories. The third with customer, they group the employees based on customer problems and needs. They could be in the wholesale side, the retail side, and also government that deals with the customers there. Geographic groups employees based on the location served, so it depends where in the area that they're serving, that's where they're stationed, and that's where they get to focus on for that certain area there. The process is they group employees based on the basis of work or customer flow. Maybe when you take a test or when you're making a payment, they have little certain sections that you have to go through. The biggest example they have for this one is when you go to get your driver's license, how you have to go through all those different processes to get your ID at the end. Our third with authority and responsibility, but first we must know the chain of command, which is the line of authority extending from the upper levels to the lower levels. And this clarifies who reports to whom. This helps the employees know when they need to report to somebody or who to go to if they have a problem. So with authority, this refers to the rights inherited in a managerial position to give orders and expect the orders to be obeyed. The second responsibility is when employees are given rights. They also assume a corresponding obligation to perform. So this is the manager, gives you the responsibility to take care of this job. So they expect you to take care of that. And since they're on top of the line of authority, it's your responsibility to go through with that task there. Our fourth with span of control is how many employees can a manager efficiently and effectively supervise. There's no consensus on a specific number, but mostly it's a small number there. But you can always increase the span, of course, by doing more managerial experience and training. If there's similarities to the employee tasks, you might have a larger span there. If the complexity of those tasks are a little bit more complex, you might have a smaller span there. Of course, the physical proximity to the employees, if you're closer in proximity there, you might have a larger span, of course. The amount of the standardized procedures, if it's pretty standardized, then you have a larger span there. If the organizations is pretty sophisticated on their management information system, lets everything run a lot smoother with communication, that's a larger span there. It's also the strength of the organization's value system. So if their values are pretty strong, you'll have a larger span. Of course, it's always about the preferred managing style of the manager. If there's personal preferences of more or fewer employees to manage, that makes it a lot more helpful for them because they know what they can manage there. Our fifth element is centralization and decentralization, where centralization is where the decision making takes place at the upper levels of the organization. Decentralization is where lower level managers provide input and actually make decisions. Of course, no organization is completely centralized or completely decentralized. Few, if any, organizations could effectively function if all their decisions were either made at the top or always made from the bottom. There has to be a mix of both, and this varies between companies, but as always, the upper level still holds the authority. Our sixth and final element is formalization, which refers to how standardized an organization's jobs are and the extent to which employee behavior is guided by rules and procedures. So basically how formal the organization is. So some organizations can give leeway to some rules and let the employees have sufficient autonomy, but they are still rules that they have to follow. So it varies from organization to organization. An example that I can think of this that was in the book was when a customer comes into a branch of a large national package delivery chain, drops off a package for same-day shipping 37 minutes after the store's cutoff time. Now, although the counter clerk knows he's supposed to follow the rules, he also knows he could get the package processed and shipped out with no problem and wants to accommodate the customer. So he accepts the package and hopes that his manager won't find out. Do you think this employee did something wrong? He did break the rule, but by breaking the rule, he actually brought in revenue and provided good customer service. So this is where the leeway comes in, and it varies from organization to organization. So now we have our structural choices, where we have mechanistic and organic. In a mechanistic structural choice, we have rigid hierarchical relationships, fixed duties, many rules, formalized communication channels, centralized decision authority. And in an organic one, we have collaboration, adaptable duties, few roles, informal communication, and decentralized decision authority. An example for a company that's mechanistic is a company that makes bombs for the U.S. military. And their doing so requires a work that's an interesting mix of the mundane, structured, and discipline, coupled with high levels of risk and emotion. The work gets done efficiently and effective there at that company. And an example of an organic one is the work also gets done efficiently and effectively, but it's different. Although it's not such a structured or formal way, like many video gamer staffers at this company do the most critical jobs and manage a network of independent contractors scattered around the globe. So it's a mix of both. They both get their jobs done, but one's mechanistic and one's more organic. And with those structure choices, there's also design structures. The first one is the simple structure, which is an organizational design with low departmentalization, wide spans of control, authority is centralized in a single person, and has little formalization. This structure is the most used in smaller businesses because it's fast, flexible, and inexpensive to maintain, and also accountability is clear. However, as this company grows, it's more inadequate because there's few policies or rules to guide the operations. And since there's only one owner, the owner is the one that's getting all the information. So he can have an information overload where he starts to have more work on his plate, and decisions start getting a little bit slower. And of course, there's also the issue if something were to happen to the owner, then the one that makes the decisions is no longer there and basically halts the operations there. So a functional structure is an organizational design that groups similar or related occupational specialties together. So one big organization with strengths and specialization, which can result in economies of scale. It minimizes duplication of personnel and equipment and makes employees comfortable and satisfied because it gives them the opportunity to talk the same language as their peers. The downfall is that since no one function is totally responsible for the results, the individual functions become insulated and have little understanding of what people in other functions are doing. The divisional structure is an organizational structure made up of separate business units or divisions. The advantage of this is that the division managers have full responsibility for a service or product, and they focus on results. So this frees headquarters staff from concerns with the day-to-day operation detail so that they can pay attention to the long-term strategic planning. The downfall with this is that they lose resources and they duplicate activities. An example could be the division that has 3 marketing research departments for each one of those divisions. So the duplication of functions increases the organization's cost and reduces its efficiency. So here we have some contemporary designs, because the traditional designs don't always work. So in an ever-changing work environment, organizations need to be innovative and in turn use some of these designs. The first one we have is the team structure, which is an entire organization is made up of work groups or teams. They divide all their sections into teams there. So like an example at your local market, there's a team for the butcher, there's a team for the delis, there's a team for stocking, and so forth. The matrix project structure, which in the matrix is you get specialists from different functional areas to work on projects. Once the project is done, they go back to their respective work area there. In the project one is where the team works on that project. Once it's done, they roll over to the next project there. The boundaryless one, the boundaryless structure is where they're not limited to the boundaries there in the corporation. They can outsource most of their needs or their goods or whatever they need in that situation there. The learning structure is a structure in which employees continually acquire and share new knowledge and apply that knowledge there. So they're constantly learning new rules. Everyone has their input there. So with all the structure and design choices that organizations have, of course they all come with challenges. One of the challenges I would like to touch up on is the remote working. And of course with the information technology making remote work possible and external factors make it a necessity, many companies have made the switch to working from home. Of course this has come in abundance recently, of course with the COVID going on, when many companies they didn't have any other option but to switch over to this remote working. A couple of challenges the managers face is how to manage remote employees without them being physically present. Some also argue that employees can be wasting the time surfing the internet, ignoring clients, or playing online games. Some employees also express concerns, especially the isolation that come from not being at work. So the ways that they're trying to improve and take away these challenges is that they'll have programs where the employees can feel a sense of belonging to the workforce by including web conference videos, assigning career counselors that they can talk to and make sure that they're getting their work done, or if they have anything that they want to say, and then one holding quarterly events at the office so they can all meet quarterly and socialize and just catch up and have important meetings or whatnot they need to. Of course, when this is done properly, though, it has allowed companies to grow without incurring additional fixed costs like office space, buildings, equipment, and parking lots. So that's one of the challenges that I wanted to touch upon there. So this will do my presentation here, and I would like to go back to the same question in the beginning is, how will your workplace be structured? Whether the one that you work in currently, or if you're going to start a business in the next chapter of your life, you can take all this in consideration to see how you want your business or organization to be structured. And of course, this all has to be implemented in businesses, but they each have their own way of making it work. As long as you touch up on the key elements, you can be a little more organic, a little bit more contemporary, traditional. You can anything that fits your needs, and as long as you're meeting the goals there, they'll work for you there. Thank you.